I moved into my new apartment 3 months ago. It's nothing special, just a cheap one-bedroom near my job. The building is old, the floors creak, and the heater makes weird noises. But I didn't mind, except for one thing. The closet door in my bedroom never stayed shut. At first I thought it was just the way the floor was slanted. Every night I'd close it before bed, and every morning it was open again. Just a little. A crack, just wide enough to make me uneasy. I started wedging a chair against it. That seemed to work. Until one night when I woke up at exactly 1:12 a.m. to a sound that made my skin crawl. The sound of the chair dragging across the floor. My breath caught in my throat. I stayed completely still, straining my ears. The room was dark except for the dim glow of the streetlight filtering through my blinds. The chair was heavy. It shouldn't have moved on its own. But there it was, scraping slowly, deliberately, as if someone was pushing it aside from the other side of the door. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to sit up in bed. My heart pounded as I reached for my phone. The clock confirmed the time, 1:12 a.m. My fingers trembled as I turned on the flashlight, its bright beam cutting through the darkness and illuminating the closet door. The chair had shifted about a foot. My mouth went dry. I couldn't move. I wanted to tell myself that it was just gravity, or maybe I had bumped it before I went to sleep. Then, just as I was about to convince myself it was nothing, I heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible sound. Breathing. Not mine. The air in the room felt suddenly heavier, pressing against my chest. I squeezed my phone tighter, the light trembling in my grip as I aimed it at the closet's crack. The darkness inside was too deep, like the light couldn't quite reach the back. And then, movement. Something shifted inside. A whisper of fabric, the softest sound of something brushing against the wall. My stomach turned to ice. I tried to convince myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but then the door creaked open another inch. Panic seized my body, locking my limbs in place. My breath came in shallow gasps, my pulse hammering in my ears. I wanted to run, to escape, but my muscles refused to obey. A suffocating dread pressed down on me, rooting me to the spot. Then, cutting through the silence, I heard it again. A slow inhale, then an exhale, like someone was standing just inside the closet, watching. I sat in bed, gripping my phone, the flashlight still aimed at the closet. The light trembled as I held it, my fingers slick with sweat. The breathing had stopped, but the air in the room felt heavy, charged with something unseen, something waiting. But I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't wait for morning. The air was thick, suffocating, my nerves fraying with every passing second. My hands were shaking, my thoughts racing. I needed to do something, anything, to stop feeling like a helpless victim in my own home. My body ached with stiffness, my brain foggy from terror and lack of sleep. I told myself I had imagined it, that it had to be a nightmare. But when I looked at the floor, the chair was still pushed aside and the closet door was still open that extra inch. I bolted from the room, heart hammering, nearly tripping over my own feet as I grabbed my phone. My fingers hovered over the emergency dial, but I hesitated. What would I even say? There's something whispering in my closet at like 2 a.m. They'd either think I was crazy or tell me to check it myself. But running wasn't an option. If this was some stupid guy messing with me, he was about to regret it. I needed to know, now. Swallowing my fear, I rushed to my nightstand, yanked open the drawer and grabbed my gun, untouched since I'd moved in. The cold metal sent a strange comfort through me, like it was the only real thing in this nightmare. I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and turned back toward the closet. I stood there, gun in hand, every inch of me screaming to run. But I had come this far, and whatever was in that closet, whatever had been whispering, breathing, I needed to see it, to end it. My pulse pounded as I stepped closer. The closet door was still open by an inch, the darkness inside stretching deeper than it should. I reached out with my free hand, my fingers trembling as they brushed the cold wood. I hesitated. Then, with a sharp inhale, I yanked the door open. At first there was nothing. Just hanging clothes, a pile of old shoes, the stench of dust and something sour like old sweat. My breath came in short gasps as I swept the flashlight across the cramped space. Then, nothing. My grip tightened on the gun as I swept the flashlight across the closet again. There was nothing there. No movement, no figure lurking in the dark, just shelves, hanging clothes, and the familiar clutter of forgotten things. I was confused. Had I imagined it? Had the fear warped my senses so much that I expected something to be there? My grip tightened on the gun. "Come out," I forced out, my voice barely audible. Nothing did. I stood there waiting for something, anything to happen. The seconds dragged on, each one heavier than the last, but the closet remained still, silent, empty. I let out a shaky breath and lowered my gun, feeling foolish. The tension in my body refused to ease, my mind still screaming that something should be there. But there wasn't. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I couldn't. My mind kept replaying every moment, trying to find a rational explanation for what I had experienced. Maybe I was sleep deprived, maybe the stress was getting to me, or maybe, just maybe, something else was at play. But deep down, I knew the truth. The air still felt heavy, like I wasn't alone, even as the morning light seeped through the curtains. I just sat there, staring at the open closet, gun still in hand, trying to convince myself that it had all been in my head, but the silence was too deep, too deliberate. By the time dawn bled into the sky, I forced myself to move. My muscles ached from hours of tension. My head felt heavy with exhaustion, but I had to do something. I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and left the apartment. I didn't know where I was going, anywhere but there. I spent the day out, trying to feel normal again, but a part of me knew I couldn't ignore it forever. The apartment was still mine, and eventually I would have to return. When I did, I made a decision. I called the landlord, told him there was something wrong with the closet, that it felt off. He just laughed. "There's nothing wrong with it," he said. "It's just a closet." But the way he said it, it was too dismissive, too practiced, like he had answered this question before. That night I slept on the couch, refusing to set foot in my bedroom. Nothing happened. No whispers, no breathing, no movement, just stillness. A few days passed, and for a moment I thought maybe I had imagined it all. But the unease never faded. I would catch myself glancing toward the bedroom, expecting something to be waiting, expecting the closet door to be slightly open again. It never was. Maybe that should have been comforting, but it wasn't, because the closet wasn't staying open anymore. It was staying shut. I don't live in that apartment anymore. I lasted 4 more weeks, each night feeling heavier than the last. I started noticing other strange occurrences. Shadows moving just beyond my field of vision, the feeling of fingers brushing my arm when I was completely alone. Objects weren't where I left them. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I swore I heard the faintest sound of breathing coming from the bedroom. I tried to ignore it, but eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I broke my lease, packed my things in a single night, and left without looking back. I never told anyone the full truth. Not my landlord, not my friends. They wouldn't believe me anyway. But I know what I felt, what I heard. That apartment wasn't empty. Something was in there with me. I moved out after a month of trying to pretend everything was fine. I never told anyone what happened. Not really. Who would believe me? But every once in a while, in the dead of night, I wake up with the strangest feeling. Like something is watching me. Like something is waiting. And when I look toward the closet in my new apartment, I always check that it's closed. I triple check the lock, wedge a chair under the knob just in case. It makes me feel better, but not safe. Never safe. But sometimes, just sometimes, I wake up to find it open.